Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is Where Are They Now for August 2024. Where Are They Now is the series where I take a look at games that I've played at some various points in the past, and I talk about where are those games now, how have they held up over time, and specifically we're taking a look at August 2019 and August 2023, basically games from a year ago August, as well as games from 5 years ago at August, specifically games that were new to me in those months. We're going to start with 2023 first, and then go to 2019. There's more in 2023, just because as time has gone on, I've played more and more games, so going back 5 years, well, you know what, let's talk about it. Let's dive into it, starting with August of 2023. In August of 2023, I got 183 games logged. From those games, there were 17 games that were new to me. That doesn't sound right. There must have been more than 17 games that were new to me. I don't know what's wrong with my tracking app, but that's what I have. I have to go by, I use BG Stats, and they have a little tag for when a game is new to you. So I'm going to go with the 17 new to me games, because that's what it currently has. But from those 17 games, we're going to go ahead and talk about where those games are, which of those games straight up weren't for me from the get-go, which of those games I enjoyed but didn't feel the need to own, which of them that I took into my collection but then they did eventually leave, and then finally which of those are still here. We're going to start off with which of the games just weren't for me from the get-go, and it's going to start with Sleepy Cats and Rumble Jungle, or Rumble in the Jungle, I think. Two games that came back from the Gen Con from the same publisher that just were way too light for what I was personally looking for. If you did watch my Gen Con haul look-back video that I recently did, I do talk about some of these games because that is August a year ago, so there's definitely going to be some overlap there. But Sleepy Cats and Rumble in the Jungle just didn't work for me. They were much lighter than what I'm personally looking for and didn't feel rewarding enough. The other one in the wasn't for me category is going to be Tiger and Dragon. Tiger and Dragon is, I think, generally well received. I'm not sure. It's from Oink Games, one of their bigger box games, and I was very excited for it, but ultimately it kind of fell flat for me. It felt too random. Oink Games has a lot of games that are absolutely amazing. This one, unfortunately, just wasn't for me. As far as the category of games that I enjoyed, but I didn't feel the need to add to my collection, and this will always be a large category. The very nature of the board game space is hundreds and hundreds of games come out every single year that are worth paying attention to. But at any given point, I can only play or keep or own or have the mental headspace for the rules for so many games, so it's very, very common for me to play a game, enjoy it, and then still not add it to my collection. To that end, we had Super Slopes from Button Shy, a small wallet game that is in their solo line. Well, I think there's actually a two-player mode as well, if I recall correctly. It's been a while since I played it, but you're basically trying to line up various slopes and get as many points as possible. It was a cute concept. I think Button Shy has better games for me in that category. There's also Fromage. Fromage is a game that's just now delivering, but I played the prototype back then, and it very much fell in the category of I appreciated the clever worker placement timing engine that they have going on, because they do have an interesting time mechanism of the way you line up certain cheeses. It's very fascinating, very unique in terms of the way it's done, but ultimately unique is not always enough. I didn't feel as rewarded by the game. I think it's clever. I think there are a lot of people who will enjoy it. I'm in that category. I did enjoy it. I just didn't feel the need to own it. We also have Astra from from Mind Clash. Astra is a game of trying to line up stars and create constellations. I had a chance to play, I think, Grant Lyon's copy, if I'm not mistaken. Had a chance to play that one in August 2023, and it was cute and clever, but didn't feel overly compelling. I felt like a lighter, simpler game from Mind Clash, which is nothing wrong with lighter or simpler, just for me, I enjoyed it, didn't feel the need to own it. There's also Fuji Flush, which I had a chance to play on an airplane floor with, on an airport floor with a few friends. I thought it was a cute little game, but again, a cute little game. There's many games in that genre that I prefer to own. Games like No Thanks, like Colorado. I think Fuji Flush is a little bit more chaotic, not as much for me. There's also Sobek 2 players from Pandasaurus. Sobek, I played the original Sobek way back in the day. I played Sobek 2 players from Pandasaurus as well. It's a good market set collection game where you're trying to trade and barter and get the various goods you need, all with the lineup of the grid. Again, a good game, not one that pulled me in enough. And then there was Sweet Mess from Fantasia Games, or Fantasia Games took that one on. But Sweet Mess, I thought, was a little more chaotic than what I'm looking for. It was a little heavier than what I would want for something that's more family-friendly, that I'd play with my kids, and a little too chaotic for it to fit into my game group. So ultimately, for me, Sweet Mess has beautiful production and a good game, but not a great game, at least not for me. Then in the category of games that I did keep at first but did eventually leave, we have 3 there. Specifically, the first 2 are going to be Ecosystem and Ecosystem Coral Reefs. 2 different games in the same genre from Genius Games, if I'm not mistaken. And Ecosystem and Coral Reefs are both games that I think it's a very clever puzzle. Like, I really enjoyed both those games. There's a reason they got added to my collection. But over time, there's too many games I have that do this. I have too many games that give me this little scoring as many points as possible while trying to take into account 17 different criteria kind of gameplay. And Ecosystem and Coral Reefs are both excellent versions of it. They're drafting games where you're placing cards down into a little tableau and then scoring based on the different animals, and then each game has its own little scoring mechanism. There's Ecosystem, Coral Reefs, and Savannah. Do I have Savannah? Or have I gotten rid of that too? I'm not sure. I may not have played Savannah for another month or two. I believe Savannah came out later. But both Ecosystem and Coral Reefs did eventually leave my collection. They were both added at first, but ultimately, again, it's not that they're bad. They're really, really good. I really enjoyed them. I just have too many games in that genre, and hard decisions have to be made on a regular basis. And then lastly, although this last one I don't know is in the wrong category, this last one is actually I miscategorized, so it should be in the category above, is Aberration. Aberration, I don't know why I put it in the kept then left category, that's a mistake. Aberration's in the games that I didn't feel the need to own, but I did enjoy category. Aberration is a tower defense kind of game where you're cooperatively working against invading hordes and trying to utilize all the tools at your disposal to try to basically just keep everyone at bay. I thought it was well done, but it didn't pull me in enough. It's not one that I backed. The publisher may send me a copy. We'll see. And if they do send me a copy, I enjoyed it enough that I would dive back into it again. But I don't think it's one that would. I don't think it's one that I would keep. Instinctively, just based on my gameplays of it, I played it 2 times or 2.5 times, I guess, because learning as well. I liked it, but not necessarily enough to own. In the category of games that were category games that I kept and are still here, we have 5 in that category. 1 with an asterisk, which we'll explain. The first is Waffle Time, which is over here on the table. Waffle Time from AEG, I surprisingly liked it. I mentioned games that have that, keeping in mind 17 different scoring criteria, and Waffle Time fits into that category. For me, Waffle Time does manage to stick primarily because of its accessibility and charm to people who aren't looking for just numbers and math and all that. There's something fun about Waffle Time. If you haven't checked out Charcuterie, I recommend checking out that too. Both of them have a more thematic element that does give them a little bit bonus points. Like, I think Ecosystem is a better game from a pure mechanical standpoint, but I think Waffle Time has more of a tabletop appeal, which makes it easier to play with, especially with gateway gamers or family, any of that kind of thing. There's also going to be Cretaceous Rails. That's the asterisk over here because it's not technically in my collection, but it is one that I do want to add to my collection. It's just, it's a prototype, so it's not out yet. But Cretaceous Rails from, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. I'm blanking on the name of the company. Sprawlopolis Games. Cretaceous Rails was a worker placement. Was it worker placement? I think so. I'm trying to remember the mechanics. Worker placement. You have this dinosaurs you're trying to explore. You're gathering cards into your tableau. Oh, it's worker placement. That's the one. So there's a grid where you're placing your workers down in between various tiles to get multiple actions at once. I thought Cretaceous Rails was very, very well done. Gives you a ton of tableau. Makes you feel very powerful by the end of the game. And ultimately just has you trying to give tours to your various guests in the park as you wander through your own little version of Jurassic Park. You really enjoy that one. Looking forward to the final game. There's also Revive. Revive is amazing. I love Revive. I love the expansion. I think it's a fantastic game. And I am always excited to play this one. Just had a chance to play this one a few weeks ago. And I'm excited to table it again as soon as I possibly can. That's going to be Revive. Then we have Captain Sonar, which gets another asterisk. There's 2 asterisks. From the 5 games that I own, there's 2 of them that I don't actually own. Captain Sonar is another one that I don't own yet, but I do plan on getting at some point. You see, Captain Sonar is a weird one where I had a chance to play this one with, well, 8 people, which is the best way to play Captain Sonar. 8, including myself. Actually, I think it was 8 plus myself. I think we managed to put 2 people in teams just to make it work. But Captain Sonar is an amazing experience. I think it's a great game. I really enjoy it, really appreciate it, and I just think it's one of those games that's hard to table because I would only ever want to play it as the full 8-player experience, which is infrequent for me. So it's one that I do plan on picking up at some point, based on my play of it, a single play of it. But it's such a thematically immersive experience. It's one of those games you're not going to be able to play often, but when you do, it's going to give you a memorable experience. So for the $30 to have that on your shelf and to be able to pull it out when you have that right situation, that could be the kind of game that I play once every 5 years, and it's worth owning for that one time because of the experience it will give you. I think Captain Sonar is incredible and a game that everyone should have the opportunity to play at least once. Then lastly, in the games I own category, we have Wizards of the Grimoire. Wizards of the Grimoire, phenomenal game. I had a chance to play this for the first time in August 2023, as evidenced by this whole timestamp topic or whatnot, but I think it's phenomenal. I think it's an excellent 2-player wizard dueling game that really, really, really gives you a challenge to go through. It gives you a ton of ways to build out your cards, a ton of combinations. I'm very much looking forward to Shifting Sands Delivery, the expansion, to even further mix up the chaos of the way you're going to build out your deck. If you are someone who enjoys games like Magic the Gathering or any kind of 2-player head-to-head dueling system, I think Wizards of the Grimoire is one that you should not take. You should not miss up a chance to try this one. It is available on Board Game Arena if you want to try it. It is one of those games that's not immediately intuitive, but it is so, so good. If you like 2-player dueling games of any kind, you have to try this out at some point. It is worth trying it out. It's very, very, very good, and also very different in a space that is often too crowded with things that are too similar. That's going to take us through August of 2023, which brings us to August of 2019. Going back 5 years, of which I had only 49 plays logged in 2019, contrasted with the 183 in 2023. Like I told you, I do play more games nowadays. We also had 10 new-to-me games in 2019, so from those 49 plays, 10 of them were new-to-me games. And going through them, again, the 4 different categories, starting off with the games that weren't for me, we have 4 over here. We had Unbroken, which is a solo game that I just didn't vibe with enough. They had their own issues with the publisher. I mean, I always feel bad for the designer because the designer made a game, and the publisher kind of really burnt any goodwill in the community at all. But the game itself, unfortunately, wasn't for me either. Then there's Bargain Quest, which I checked out after watching Shut Up and Sit Down. Was like, I think, going crazy over the game. So I had a chance to try Bargain Quest, and ultimately, Bargain Quest is one that didn't land with me quite as much. This is going back a while. I'm forgetting, like, it's not a year ago. This is 5 years ago. But Bargain Quest is one I picked up based on the hype and buzz around it. They had a whole crowdfunding campaign based on, like, I don't know if it's based on, but like definitely boosted by those reviews. And ultimately, I thought it was thematically compelling and mechanically didn't pull me in quite as much. You're trying to like supply heroes with goods, so it's not about being the heroes, it's about being the people who sell stuff to the heroes. Cute concept, ultimately didn't deliver. I've seen a few games do that concept since then, and ultimately none of them have really strongly worked for me as games themselves. I think I just prefer being the hero. Then there's Skulk Hollow. Skulk Hollow is another one. It's a 2-player game of asymmetry in terms of one player being this beast that you're trying to control, and the other ones being these woodland folk who are trying to climb this colossus and take them down. Ultimately, for whatever reason, Skulk Hollow is a well-received game. They've had a follow-up as well, and it just didn't work for me. Something about the gameplay didn't work for me. I really didn't enjoy my time with it. And then lastly, you have Draftosaurus, and this one's a tricky one as far as when I put a game into the games that the category of wasn't for me. Draftosaurus is the one I enjoyed the most from these games, but I did still feel it was too light. Meaning, there's a fine line. Sometimes a game I didn't enjoy it enough. It is what it is. Other times I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel the need to own it. Draftosaurus is, I wasn't sure which category to put it in. I do think it was way too light for what I was personally looking for. It's a drafting mechanism where you're drafting dinosaurs, putting into different zones, scoring points. I felt it was a little fiddly the way you hold the dinosaurs in your hand to draft them, and then just the whole entire puzzle just wasn't compelling enough. I didn't not enjoy it. That's why I wasn't sure to put this. But I also didn't enjoy it enough to say, hey, this is a category of games that I enjoy, but just wasn't for me. It was middle. It's in the middle of those 2 categories. I bumped it down a notch. In the category of games that I enjoyed but didn't feel the need to own, we have Quinto, which is a roll and write game that is totally fine, but there's so many roll and write games out there. I thought Quinto was good. I didn't think it was great. And then we have Carpe Diem from Stefan Feld. I have enjoyed every game Stefan Feld has ever put out that I've played, which I think is most of them. There's that original, Anteater game, something like that. I've never played that one. But all his Euro games, I've enjoyed every single one. Carpe Diem is no exception, but there are some that I don't feel the need to own, and Carpe Diem is I gave it a few plays and then decided I didn't feel the need to own that one. So that one was not... It's tricky. I want to own all his games, and most of his games I have owned for a period of time before deciding which ones I want to keep. But in the case of Carpe Diem, ultimately that's one after a few plays I decided I just didn't need for myself. In the category of games that kept and then left, we just have one, Zombicide Invader. I played Zombicide Invader for the first time in August 2019, and it did not work for me. That's not true. It did work for me. Zombicide Invader, I like Zombicide Invader a lot. I like most games in the Zombicide universe, and I held on to Zombicide Invader for years because I kept hoping that the next play would be the one that elevates it to Zombicide Black Plague status. Ultimately, it never got to that point, and when they announced Marvel Zombies, I was like, it's time to give up and it's time to move on because I can only afford to have so many Zombicides in my collection anyway. I have never once played Zombicide Invader without enjoying my game, but I've also never once played Zombicide Invader and felt that it gave me an equitable experience to something like Black Plague or Green Horde or whatnot. So it was one that entered my collection for a while, but it is one that eventually left. And then lastly in 2019, the 3 games that were in the category of games that entered my collection and stayed, we have Zombicide Green Horde, which is over here. This is I played Zombicide itself before. Zombicide Black Plague was a little earlier. Green Horde, though, played it. I do think Black Plague is better, but I like the things that Green Horde adds, and as a whole ecosystem, it really works for me. So this one is still standing strong. I don't know if or when it ever leaves the collection, but hey, never say never. Things can happen one day eventually. Then in the kids side of things, and again, I'm not really sure where to put these things, but ultimately, I like it enough, I guess, as far as what it's doing or who the target audience is. There's Cobra Paw. I played Cobra Paw with my kids, and it's been around and still is around ever since. We actually have a few copies because pieces always get lost. But Cobra Paw is a fast dexterity game where you roll the dice, it shows 2 symbols, you have to grab that specific kind of domino, and it's just real-time, crazy freneticness. It's stupid, it's silly, but the theme is cute, the components are cute, and the gameplay works well. It is one that has worked well for who the target audience is and for what they're trying to do. And then lastly, I played in 2019 for the first time. I played Sprawlopolis. I'm trying to remember when exactly this happened. I know at one point I took Sprawlopolis to Argentina with me on like a trip, my last job, and played the heck out of it for like 3 days straight, because I was basically in a different country with very little to do other than read rulebooks and film videos about Marvel United and why I was or wasn't backing it. But Sprawlopolis is an excellent game that has continued to hold strong. I've since gotten Combopolis, Agropolis, all those, Naturopolis, all that stuff. But Sprawlopolis is the one that started it all, and it's the one that made me fall in love with the button shot universe of games. Not all of them are for me. I'd argue most of them I don't keep, but I do have like 10 or so that really, really work for me in different ways. I think it's a fantastic collection, and I think Sprawlopolis is the one that very much made me fall in love with them as a company. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. These are the games from 1 year ago and from 5 years ago and where they all settled and whatnot. There's always new games being played every single time, all the time, every month, and it's always interesting to see which ones have changed or evolved as time goes on, a year and sometimes 5 years into the future. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.